concerned, I have this to say. Frankly, we're all to blame for Kyle. And last Friday I said that we're not to blame, but give me just a minute, and maybe in fact all of us are at least somewhat to blame for the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. So let's just back up just a little bit and talk about something that seems completely unrelated. There's a guy named Brett Weinstein. Weinstein is a brilliant scientist. He's got a lot of degrees, and he thinks that the current theory of evolution is missing a couple of pieces, that human beings are actually naturally selected to think of the children, as it were, that nature has selected us to create an environment in which our children have the best chance of surviving and growing up and having their own children. The lineage is what we are genetically programmed to protect. And I think this holds a lot of water. It works really well. Human beings are complex social animals that help one another. It's what they do. They stick their neck out. Yep. A quick Google search will give you no end of examples of strangers, total strangers, usually men, by the way, just a thing, but total strangers doing things like forming human chains to wade out into the raging river to pull the family out of the flipped over SUV. All these people risk their lives for strangers. And why? Why? Well, because we understand that that is actually how you think of the children, because that creates the environment that allows your children to thrive. And you never know. It could, in fact, be your child in the flipped over SUV, and you would hope to God that the strangers would form the human chain. Yep. In fact, whenever there's a flood, men with boats just kind of show up. Nobody asks them to. Nobody tells them to. Nobody pays them to. They just show up. Because, again, we're talking about the kind of environment in which people need help, and men need to step up to the plate and help, because that's how you think of the children. And I bet some of you know where I'm going with this, that's exactly what Kyle was doing. He was following his genetic pre-programming to think of the children, to safeguard his own community. And what? Oh, Kyle shouldn't have been there. He was only 17. It was a dangerous situation. Well, let's just take this apart just a wee bit. First of all, the 17-year-old thing, I've touched on this last week, but 17? Oh, 17 was plenty old enough for Vietnam. 17 was plenty old enough for Operation Desert Storm. And you say, oh, well, this was a chaotic situation. It was as bad as it could possibly get. You had citizen on citizen violence. You had a breakdown of the social contract. Well, it's funny, 17 was old enough for the Civil War. That was citizen on citizen violence. And 17 was old enough for arguably the most important war that America ever fought. And that was the Revolutionary War, while we were still British subjects. And again, that was citizen on citizen violence. And 17 was plenty old enough for that. But now suddenly 17 is not old enough for Kenosha, Wisconsin, a situation that arose out of protests built on a lie promulgated by Marxists, people that want to shove critical race theory and the white patriarchy down your throat. So Kyle goes to help in a terrible situation that's built on lies. He's not just helping with the situation, he's helping push back against the lie. And what's the lie in this situation? What are these people protesting? Who is their hero? A man who's a serial offender, whose crimes include sex crimes, was violating a restraining order, had children in the car, decided to pull a weapon on the cops, okay? And got shot for his efforts, right? And this is who these Marxist shitbergs are protesting, burning a city down, which Kyle only lives about 20 miles away from. Kind of the equivalent of how far away we are from Atlanta. And I bring up that distinction for a reason, because we say, oh, the wise thing to do would have been for Kyle to stay home, to stay out of it. Okay, fine. Let's just run with that for a second, okay? We had our own version of that right here in Atlanta. There was the burning of the Wendy's over Rayshard Brooks, a man who was released from jail on a special COVID exemption, got so drunk that he passed out in the Wendy's parking lot, and the only reason anybody called the cops on him, they weren't trying to get anybody hurt, they weren't trying to get him in trouble, they just needed him to, move so they could keep serving their customers. right? And it turned into protests, which were really riots and tons of violence. And how did those protests end? Well, they ended with a 6-year-old child getting their head blown off in the backseat of their family's car. Not a child molester, like in the Kyle Rittenhouse case. No, 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 no. A child getting their head blown off in the back of a car. And hey, quick, dark as hell thought experiment. Who do you think got the worst end of the stick that day? The 6-year-old child that got their head blown off, or the family that got to watch it happen in the backseat of their car? Just let that ponder for a moment. And what did guys like me do? Well, I was wise and I stayed home. Atlanta's about the equivalent of the distance Kenosha. In fact, Atlanta's probably closer than Kenosha was to Kyle. And, you know, my wisdom, it only cost one 6-year-old child their life. So question Kyle Rittenhouse, question what he's doing as he stands up to violent thugs that are burning down his backyard over a lie? No, I refuse. Okay? Because let's be really clear about something. When shit hits the fan, we take young men and we throw them into the bloody maw. And what's fascinating is it's usually young men with a hero complex, the thing that we criticize Kyle for having. Thank God he had a hero complex. We need more men like Kyle with a hero complex. And we need to stop questioning what Kyle Rittenhouse did. Kyle Rittenhouse did not do the wrong thing. He did not just do the right thing. He did the only thing that he could have done, which was stand up to the lies. This was not just the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, or even your right to defend yourself on trial. This is human nature itself. People help people, and men in particular stand up and stand in the gap. And there was a hell of a gap. So you want to say Kyle Rittenhouse shouldn't have been there? You're damn right he shouldn't have been there, but all the adults decided to be wise. That's the only reason Kyle was there, and no more, never again will I question what he did, because he did the only thing that could have and should have been done, and the only reason he was able to do it is everybody else, right and left alike, dropped the damn ball. And that is how I feel.